Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're videoing.
Who wants to go first?
Bring out a quote.
Who wants to be first? The person behind the camera.
Okay.
Okay. I'll just, okay, so the quote that I have is, "How did they function in a world ruled by signs?" So do you guys remember where that was from?
I think that's
It's
after.
page 201.
I think that's after the bus scene where the grandma tells him that sure, the only thing you can distinguish from the buses is the sign on top, which says blacks or whites, or no blacks allowed, or only whites, and it's him wondering like how much effect like a plank of wood with writing on it can have on like an entire culture or something like that.
On like, does anybody remember why he was so surprised that the world was ruled by signs? For like black people specifically.
I mean, it's like totally different than what he's experiencing. Because I mean, like again, this is like one of the, like, I guess he's like still slowly starting to like really just like experience white culture because he's lived like in Alexandria like his whole entire life, and he's only really been around other Africans. So now he's around this whole white culture, and like there's so many differences and so many rules, whereas in Alexandria a lot of things were, it seems that like things in Alexandria are a lot more loose than things that are in like in this like white towns, and like there's a lot more order, and so he's just kind of like, I feel like it's kind of like a culture shock to him, sort of.
Yeah.
It's just like because there's just so much new stuff coming out.
And also, like what
Now
they're
you have
saying is that for all these people who can't read, how are they supposed to read these signs?
But all white people read.
So what do
But
you?
not the black people.
So what do
How
you guys
they
think of that
differ,
sort of like
distinguish
that?
between the
Yeah.
signs?
Of how black people, most of them were illiterate, but their whole world was ruled by signs, and they could go to jail or be killed because they didn't follow the sign.
Or because they couldn't read them because white people weren't supplying them the proper education.
It's almost like a vicious circle that the white government in South Africa is like setting up for themselves.
Yeah.
It's like what the grandma said, that the blind people even know that they're separate and they can't
Like,
read.
well, it's like, it's funny because it's like the government's like setting up rules for the people to obey, but they're not like allowing, like the government almost like isn't allowing them to obey it because they can't get the proper kind of education to be able to read or like understand a simple sign like that, and to just like be able to distinguish bunches of things.
It's like they can't teach them other education, but they do teach them this stuff, like that this is white area, this is a non-white area.
Yeah, and I remember thinking to myself, like, when she was talking about the two phone boxes, the one white one and the one black one, like, these phone boxes are exactly the same except for these signs that separate them, and if you switch the signs, people wouldn't notice, except for the fact that people would change which of the boxes they were going to, and it's not like it doesn't matter at all.
It's actually, I think it's a really like intelligent sort of observation by him, because like, yeah, he's still young, but he's making all these like really intelligent observations, and it kind of just shows how like, even though there's so much segregation, it shows just how equal everybody is. Because like, yeah, there's two different buses for two different kinds of people, but he sees them and he sees the same exact bus. He sees the same exact telephone box. It just kind of shows how like, even though we're creating this segregation, you know, nobody's really that different. We all use the same things, we all do the same things. The only thing that's different is personality, and that just goes from person to person, not race or color or skin.
And when he asked his grandmother which box is for which race, and she can't tell him, the only thing she could say was that there's always a sign that tells you where to go or what to do and which race is for which box or whatever. And like, if you're constantly looking for a sign to give you permission, how are you supposed to do anything that like these white people aren't telling you to do? they're kind of locking themselves into this neglect of freedom, and like,
well, they're almost like putting themselves in a cage and like
yeah, exactly.
letting this this apartheid just take more control over them.
And it's probably because these people, like the grandma, probably learned of it from her parents or grandparents who tell them, focus on the sign, who just pass it down, and you learn after a while that it's just like the thing to do. And there's no option. There's no option. It's just the only way you can do
Yeah,
it.
but I mean, at the same time, I mean, what are you gonna do? Because if you don't obey the sign, somebody catches you. You know, like there's that one quote where the guy's like, "I could have had you arrested had you have stepped on this earth. Like I could have had you arrested because you stepped on the bus, but I'm not gonna arrest you. Just get off the bus and get the hell out of here." Like you could get in so much trouble for just doing something so, like, I don't know, so innocent by just like going to the wrong phone booth or stepping on a bus that you didn't realize was white because you can't even read the sign that tells you which one is which.
Yeah, and that's funny. That reminds me of like the last unit with the Kitty Genovese thing. That was just he just didn't want to get involved. Like he just didn't want to do anything. But
it was like being on English to cover up the embarrassment that he had to come like fake to his son.
Okay.
It's like
Anybody else want to say something out?
I can do mine.
Alright. Do you want to do it? Whoever's doing the quotes.
yeah, let's do that.
So I was gonna have one quote from the other thing. You know, actually, I will still show it because I think it's a really powerful quote. The quote it's from the same sort of context and everything. It's on page 200, and it's the grandmother talking to the kid, and it's "Shut up, you black imp," and then actually here, let me get it from here. Sorry, because it's longer. All right. So the quote is, "Shut up, you black imp," Granny screamed. "Shut up before I make you. You're always doing things you shouldn't be doing. That's your nature, and you know it. You can't get away with this bad behavior in Alexandria, among black people." Wait, crap, I did it wrong again. Can we just start over? Do another one? Alright, I'm gonna pause.